So I was getting ready to pull the top chassis out, and I was pulling the knobs off to do so, and I noticed some debris in here. It has a certain odor to it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sylvania Halolight restoration project. In the last installment, did a first power up and got it working, and working rather well. What I'm focusing on in this installment is cosmetic issues and some mechanical issues. So one of the things I'd noted in the previous installment was that it's front heavy, and judging by an illustration, the service info, it should look like the legs are on backwards, meaning this part that protrudes should be on the front. I have it on its side right now. This is the front of the set, that's the back of the set. However, I was just Googling for other examples of this model, and the only one I found was at radiomuseum.org, and it appears to show the legs the same as mine has. But what gets more interesting is the photos of that set look similar to this one. It has the same damage here and very similar looking damage on the grill cloth. It makes me wonder, are those photos this set? In which case, maybe I'm using the same set for referring to itself. And at any rate, I think the legs should stick out more that way. And it looks like they're symmetrical, meaning if I take off all these screws, I should be able to flip it around. I mean, yeah, they're independent, so why wouldn't I be able to, right? So let's give that a shot. The other thing is the fine-tuning. I'll get to that after I'm done with the legs. Yeah, of course it's possible to do. I just flipped this one around. When you do, this becomes flush with the back of the cabinet, and this sticks out in front just a little bit past the bezel. And since it's so front-heavy, this has got to be a more stable arrangement. I'll do the same to the bottom. Oh yeah, that is a vast improvement in terms of stability. Much, much, much better. Hey, who knows, maybe it was an option back then. You could have it either way. But I'm going to keep it this way. And as far as this goes, it doesn't really matter because it just snaps in either way. Something I didn't realize at first is that this is just a slab of plastic. It's a piece of brown plastic through and through. They somehow printed wood grain on one side. Alright, so let's talk about the fine-tuning next. Okay, fine-tuning. It's this little knob coming up here, and notice it's at an angle. It's sort of angled that way, and you can actually tilt it a little bit by pushing up on this. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because check this out. So we have all these little knurled wheels on threaded shafts. When you rotate them, it makes this part come down lower. That's all these do. They're not attached to inductors or capacitors or anything. The way this works is there's a plate down right there. And when you change channels, these push down on that plate. This thing, see if I can push on it with my finger. This is the fine-tuning. This is the variable capacitor, I imagine, inside. So as this carousel goes around, depending on how far down these pistons are, it pushes that plate down. Alright, so that's how that works. But how does the fine-tuning control work? Well, it's the shaft coming down here with this angled gear on it, and when it's in the normal position, it's not engaging this wheel that's right behind it unless you push on it a little bit. Now when you push on it, now it's engaged with that wheel. My thinking is that it's to prevent you from inadvertently tweaking the fine-tuning when you're changing a channel. Something like that. But here's the thing, when it is engaged, you can just barely turn it. A couple degrees in each direction. So I'm going to look at the fine tuning mechanism. And I noticed behind this angled gear there was a black disc. And I poked at it with a pocket knife and realized it's rubber. Well, I poked at it a little bit more and it loosened it up. And then I put in a little bit of grease. And guess what? The mechanism rotates now. So, just as you would expect it to do. The rubber just seized up. It fused this plastic to this piece of metal. So all this time, that's what I was fighting with. Now that's not the end of the world, because I can get in there with my fingers and I can manually rotate that little wheel. It's an inter-carrier sound set, so you get pretty good sound over a wide range of fine tuning. I'm not that concerned about it. It looks pretty good right now the way it's set. So let's turn our attention to something else that's far more annoying, and that is this clear safety glass. So this is not the face of the CRT. This is some nicely form-fitting curved plastic to protect you in case pitch tube implodes, or to protect the pitch tube from you hitting it and cracking a glass. It's got a scuff on it. It's quite visible when the set's playing, so we want to buff that out. It may require a little wet sanding, and then the whole thing's filthy. What I really want to do is take this whole front off. Now, as we saw when I was about to power this up in the previous installment, it looks like there's just 2 screws, and if I take them out, I think this whole front will come off. So let's give that a try. We'll also reveal the Halolight tube, and I'm going to be very, very, very careful not to break it. As I also want to clean this up. That's some masking tape adhesive residue there. Stress cracks there I can't do much about. But when I was cleaning the back side of the pitch tube, it was absolutely filthy. I would not be surprised if it's pretty filthy on the inside of this plastic, and if I clean that off, it may make the Halolight look brighter. And one other thing that I'm still very puzzled about looking at the front of this. So we have this nice metallic trim all around this Halolight bezel, right? We have a gap here. Why is there a gap there? What I first thought was, oh, it broke. But it's at a nice 45-degree cut that should match into this like it does on the other side. But that also has a gap. And then it's split in the middle. So I'm wondering, is this supposed to be, are these supposed to slide over so that they meet nicely in the corners and then there's a gap in the middle? And did there used to be something here? Or what's going on? Why is there a big old gap here? It looks terrible. Top is all one piece. I mean, worst case scenario, do they still make something like this? Just some U-channel metal that I could chamfer on the corner and just replace this whole bottom strip? I don't know. I'd at least feel better if I could make it symmetrical and slide this over and get it to line up in the corners, and then I could put a little piece or something in the middle to address that. Doesn't want to come off. I'm not sure what's holding it on, but I figure if we take the whole front of it off, we can examine it more closely. Sylvania logo. There's traces of metallic paint, so I'm pretty sure this all used to be some type of metallic, silver or gold, but it's almost completely worn off. I think at least for right now, I'm inclined to do nothing to it. Actually not quite as filthy as I thought it'd be down in here, because it's pretty easy to get at and clean. Alright, now it's a little bit of detailing on the cabinet. This side is especially bad. Got a lot of fine scuffs and scratches. I'm going to use some Oz cream polish on it. Cleans, polishes, preserves in one easy application. It's got some oils and waxes on it. Let's give this a try. It's one of my go-to products I've been using for years. Also use Old English and Howard's Feed and Wax for something like this. I find it works quite well. Obviously need to touch up that strip. That's a whole nother matter for this. That's much better. I don't think I would mess with this any more than that, like in terms of clear coating it or anything like that. I wouldn't. I'd be afraid of it reacting with this faux finish material. Not sure what that is. And of course, we're just talking about the side of the set, which, depending on where you put it, the set might not be visible at all anyways, but that is a vast improvement. Did the same Oz polish treatment on the top. Put some on a Q-tip and ran it along the rails that this control panel slides on. And it does work better now. Still gets a little squeaky, and when it's in all the way you have to reach in a little bit to get it going. But it's better than it was, that's for sure. Alright, now as far as the front goes, I thought it was going to come off real easily. I took off 2 screws that were visibly holding it on, and it started to come off. It was just hanging there, but there's something right in the middle, right around here, that it's hung up on. I don't see any fastener on the other side of this. I thought maybe it was a hook or something, which would definitely be very handy, so when you take the screws out, the thing doesn't just fall off, but nothing I could do with twisting, pulling, lifting would disengage it. I want to bust the thing off, so I'm going to go look in the Sam's service info. Sometimes they have some disassembly instructions. Maybe there's some tips. It was so close to being so easy. Take out screws and just take it off, and then clean it all up. Otherwise, the only other thing I can think to do is take the picture tube out, and maybe there's some kind of fastener that's being covered up by something. It's a bit of a puzzle. So with this out of the way, I can also tackle repairing this grill cloth. Well, I went back to Riders and found this fantastic sheet of info that has all kinds of wonderful info about focusing and centering and removing chassis and mask and trim removal. It's a little confusing, but what it seems to come down to is this. My confusion about this was well-founded because these are supposed to be pushed all the way to the edge. There should be a gap in the middle. There should be something here. Whatever piece was supposed to be there has lost the time. So few photos of this set are online, I don't know what it's supposed to look like or what's supposed to be there, but here's the deal, as near as I can make out. You slide this to the right, and then you should be able to slide this down and remove it, then do the top, and then do the right, and it comes off. In other words, you pull all the trim off from the front, and then you take the mask off from the front. You don't remove the screws around the perimeter and take it off from the back side. So that's what I'm endeavoring to do. I think the reason it's so difficult is over time, this metal has got a little bit bent and twisted, and maybe the plastic is distorted a little bit. So it is not at all easy to slide or to move these, but I haven't given up. But that explains why it's a little messed up all around, is I expect this has been removed in the past. For cleaning or replacement or whatnot, and it's taken its toll. That's another bit of a stress crack in there. So I'll keep at it, because I definitely need to get this out and to clean it. It'll be much easier to do this whole thing. I can see now, as I imagine you came with better lighting, that these dark things you see, it's the light hitting scratches and scuffs on the front of this and transmitting them through to the CRT. So this whole thing should be polished up. So now that I've moved this a bit, slide this over. Alright, so we want to slide this over. There we go. So that's how it was when I first got it. Now this vertical piece is supposed to slide down, but it doesn't. Alright, so we're supposed to slide this piece over. Okay, and then the vertical piece is supposed to slide down, and that's as far as I've gotten so far. Is it? Oh, it is starting to move just a hair. So, there's where I'm at. I need to keep applying pressure and slide this piece down. I imagine as I start getting these pieces disengaged, the remaining ones will loosen up more and more, I hope. But that's the goal. Okay, finally got it figured out. You need to get this right piece slid over as far as it can go into that corner. Then slide this piece over as far as it will go, which exposes this black metal piece, which does not go all the way across. It ends right here. You remove that, and oh man, still need to get it over just a hair, but you need to remove this piece. So there's one of these black pieces on each corner. They're called a trim guide. That's why I can't get this piece off, because I need to get this out first. And it's hung up right there on the edge. It's just barely hanging on there. Now we have a problem. See, with me turning these legs around so they protrude in the front, now you can't get the trim off because it slides down and goes right into this. So, with these installed this way, I can't get this trim off because you can't pull it off. It needs to slide off. Wait a minute. Or, I'm pretty sure it does say to slide down. Remove trim guide and lower left. Remove left side trim strip by sliding down. Remove trim guide from upper left. It's like one of the sliding puzzle games. You got the one little gap and then you got to start moving everything around to get it out. But what I'm wondering is, if I take this out, that came out easily enough. Can I somehow get it so that I can slide this up and get it out? Doesn't seem that way. I mean, I put the gap on the bottom for a reason, so you can slide these out down the bottom, but I can't because of the leg, and I do not want to tip this back on its side and take the legs off again. Oh man, so I will try to somehow get this off the top. I think I got it. Basically, I need to ignore the instructions, other than the first step about that lower left-hand corner. Because with the strip out in the upper left, I can slide this off. And with that off, I can pull this off the top now, I think. This last strip seems to have gotten a little bit mangled, and that's why it's so hard to slice my finger off there. Some sharp metal bits protruding on the backside. Woohoo. Alright, and now we just need to take care of this side, which should slide up. I got that black piece off of there. And they do say to brace this, because I just start pulling all these off. The front's going to fall off the set. So now we're back to the bottom strips that need to come off. Should be pretty straightforward now, I hope. It's just that easy. So now we can get at this and clean it. It's not as dirty as I thought it might be, but we'll still clean it up. And now we can see the Halolight tube. Looks very fragile, very delicate. I'm not going to mess with it. There it is, running across the top and down and around. Now what I want to clean and polish and all that is this piece of plastic, which is held in by some strips of metal, it looks like, with a whole bunch of screws I got to take out. A little tedious, but I got all the screws out. I can see how pristine that picture tube face is. I wish I could say the same about the safety cover, but it's not just filthy, but it's even worse than I realized. This whole area is covered with scuffs. You guys probably can't see it very well, but that's going to take a bit of work to clean off. Or not, to buff out. I'll start with numbers number 2, see how good I can get it. I think some of this is some dried crud that dripped down on the front. So we'll see how bad it really is after some cleaning and polishing. I'm hoping I don't have to resort to any wet sanding. I did find the tuner in the Sylvania service info reprinted in Riders. And there is that fine tuning shaft I was trying to explain the operation of. And see, there's that rectangular piece of metal, and this sits down in here, and that piece of metal smacks into that, and there's that little tensioning spring that rides against that, so you need to push this forward to engage with the gears up there. So that's all I know. There's no explanation of how it's supposed to work. There's just an exploded parts diagram, and there's some names to things. So for example, 15 is the spring disengaging, and 13 is the fine-tuned shaft assembly. So that's all I know. Hey, while I have the service info out, let's take a little look at the schematic. We haven't really talked about this at all. We talked about the power supply and the filament dropper and all that, but take a look at this. This is something I don't think I've ever seen before. So here's our detector and a video amp 12BY7, and the output goes through a peaking coil, and it's capacitively coupled to a contrast control. Center wiper of that makes its way over to the cathode on the picture tube. Pretty sure every set I've ever worked on before did contrast by varying the gain, typically the video amp, or sometimes the 2-stage video amp, and they modify the gain on one of them. Like often they'll make this a variable resistor, that cathode resistor, which would change the gain of this tube. But this is all fixed gain, and they take the output of it and have a variable control there, and which feeds into another one, which I believe is the brightness control. Strange. Well, I'm about to post this on the Antique Radio forum because the topic has come up about how we can do add a spot killer to this set. By that I mean when you turn it off and it collapses to a very bright point. I'd like to eliminate that. It's common for all the old sets from the 40s and 50s, and there's a certain charm to it. When we get into the late 50s into the 60s, these sets run on a lot more voltage, so it's 16,000 volts. And when that collapses with a strong picture tube, that's a really, really bright point. My concern is that it may eventually damage the phosphor, even though it's aluminized from that collapse again and again and again with a lot of energy left in the circuit. So one way to do it is when you turn the set off to alter this such that it goes into cutoff. Either change the bias on the cathode or on the grid to kill the electrons from getting to the screen. Another way would be to somehow drain off the high voltage quickly. I think it's a little bit easier to change the bias on this, but I've never actually seen a spot killer circuit, but I've already got some ideas, and I'm going to share the schematic of this with the guys, so we'll see what we can come up with. Well, I thought that was a really interesting way to do the contrast control. And a potential problem I can see with doing it this way is introducing noise into it. But notice We have dashed lines here. This is the main circuit board up top. And there are some controls that are actually mounted on the circuit board. So that's probably how they got away with doing that, is the control is right there next to the tube and right next to the wire that goes to the CRT. Because you wouldn't want to have some wires carrying this signal to the front of the set and then back again. We're talking 3.5 megahertz or so of video signal there, and you don't want that getting distorted by running it through some cables all over the place. As I mentioned in the previous installment, right after I got this working, I anticipated to be tearing it apart again, and that's exactly what I'm doing, because it turns out that this front bezel with the Halolight that I want to get off to do, so I can get behind and reattach the grill cloth, the picture tube's attached to it. This is all one piece. And I got the screws off, but notice these two metal prongs coming up through it. Those go around to the back and go right to that one big screw that's holding this whole thing in. So this whole picture tube, it's just swinging right now. To get at that, I need to take the top chassis out. So I'm about to tear this whole thing apart. I figured, well, we got it out. I gotta look at this fine tuning. But this is why I grabbed the camera. I was starting to pull the knobs off so I could get this chassis out again. Well, I noticed this strange substance up here hidden behind the control panel. I'm pretty sure that is something left over from the 60s. It has a certain aroma to it. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's like somebody was hiding their stash up in here. Success. Yeah, you do have to take the picture tube out to get the bezel out. But the yoke assembly and the adjustment magnets, all that stay attached to it undisturbed, so that's one good thing. The reason you have to take it out is there's a screw that goes in straight up here, and you cannot get to it unless the picture tube's taken out. Once you do, take out the 4 screws around the perimeter, and this whole assembly comes out. Of course, we want to be super careful because of the fluorescent tube running around inside. But now I can go to town and completely clean this out to my heart's content. I'll vacuum it out, clean the picture tube thoroughly all around the sides, and see about reattaching the grill cloth that's separated in some areas in the front. Here it is from the other side. Now I can get in here and go to town. So we want to glue this back down. So I'm just puzzled what is behind this. So it looks like some sort of fiberboard type material, thin, that the grill cloths adhere to, and that is separated from a plywood cabinet. So we want to glue that back up. I think it's supposed to go underneath this edge a little bit. Well, it doesn't really want to go up. Maybe I gotta push the whole length of it in, but that's the idea. Boy, I really separated it across the entire top, but with this piece securely in place, it's holding it in. And then there's this. It's curious. You would think that this originally went right up to this metal trim, maybe underneath it a little bit. Has this shrunk over time? And I've seen several other examples online that look the same way. So I'm thinking whatever the backing material is on this shrunk and pulled away. Did the same on this side, but on this side it's crooked. Actually, the grill cloth is rather crooked on this side. They just put it on badly. Where's this whole thing sagged down that much? I think it has. So, I have my work cut out for me. Alright, here's what I decided to do. I'm just doing minimal repairs using some servicemen from GC Electronics, designed for speaker cone repair, but it's working pretty well on this. Has a little brush applicator. I work some down behind here, put a board across it and clamped it, similar to what I'm doing right now. Just did the same, put a little bit of bead of adhesive behind the top there and there, clamping both sides. No, I couldn't get a brush in everywhere, so there's some pockets where it's still a little bit loose, but it's way better than it was. It's stabilized. I'll get this next so we won't have these areas where it's bulging out. It'll be fine. Just about done with the grill cloth repairs. I was especially glad to fix in this area. I think it was right about here where it was actually dented in. I was able to get glue along behind the backer board here, get that glued down. And then for the grill cloth, I've been using Eileen's Turbo Tacky glue. It's clear, or sorry, dry as clear. It is milky white as it comes out. So just put a little behind where grill cloth is separated and push it down. That's why I've been securing the grill cloth. Stuff sets up real fast, hence the turbo in the name. Well, I think the hard part is done. I got the picture tube reinstalled along with the bezel and Halolight assembly. Now I'm working on putting the light diffuser panel back in. I cleaned it. There are a few minor condition issues. There are some stress marks up here. I'm wondering if the reason it's discolored is that from somebody cleaning it in the past, it kind of worked dirt into that. I'm not quite sure. I can just barely feel a little bit of a crack if I run my nail over the surface, but it's not cracked all the way through by any means. So what I'm going to try doing is using a Q-tip and maybe some isopropyl alcohol and see if I can maybe wick that dirt out of there. For the other marks, a bit of a scuff or some discoloration there. I got most of it off using Windex and a Q-tip, but there's still a little bit left. So the problem with this is this has a texture to it. So I can't use plastic polishing products like I did on the safety cover, like Novus number 2, because it would abrade the surface and wear down the texture. So clean it best you can, and same down here. But there are some actual scratches in it with dirt in them, and again I'll try a Q-tip with isopropyl alcohol on that. Well, even though I know the secrets of how this comes apart, not something I would look forward to doing again anytime soon. It is a little different, it's a little challenging, but I got it all back together. Now, Q-tips and isopropyl alcohol really didn't do anything for cleaning out those scuff marks. But what did work well, once I got around to trying it, is a pencil eraser. Yes, I literally erased the discolorations of the marks. There's just a tiny trace down here, but I don't want to risk putting another stress crack in the plastic, so I'm just happy I got rid of the vast majority of it. Looking way better. Now, stress cracks up here. No, I wasn't able to use isopropyl alcohol and magically lift out the discoloration and make it look invisible. But I did notice that while it was damp, they did fade away quite a bit, which makes me wonder, could I leach in some solvent and sort of weld that back together, maybe, like wick it in there and make it less noticeable. I'm not brave enough to try that right now. No, I wouldn't say brave, but I don't want to risk damaging it any further because I could horribly melt the plastic and ruin it. Alright, that just about takes care of the front of the set. Someone online sent me a photo of the front of a very similar model that shows this missing bit of trim. It looks very similar to this. It's a little bit larger. It overlaps a little bit. I imagine it clips on from below. So I have a very good idea of what I need. Well, something else I need is feet. I got 3 out of the 4 with it, but they kept falling out. I imagine the plastic has shrunk over time. So I went looking around online and I found these. Same size, the outer perimeter there, it's 1 inch square, and this has fluted plastic on the inside to grip that square metal stock. I already put the 2 front feet on. They hold on very well. They work just fine. I got to spin around to do the 2 back feet. While I have it spun around, I'll start making the final adjustments. Yes, after reassembly, I have powered it up. It does still work, but there is an issue. The horizontal does take quite a while to fill out the screen fully. I can think of 2 reasons why that would be. One, the thermistor. Yeah, the addition of the thermistor does mean it will take the tubes a bit longer to warm up, but not 2-3 minutes, which is about what it's taking. So I suspect it's a weak horizontal output tube. Although it tested good, we can still try swapping it out, or perhaps a damper tube. I'd like to get that addressed. Notice the yoke's a little bit crooked, and I want to play around more with the linearity and the centering. Once that's done, I do have the back for the set. We can reinstall that. And now the fine-tuning works. We can see how good of an image we can dial in. And once all that's done, hopefully we can wrap this up for now while I experiment with repairing this trim. I have a few other sets that have damage like this, and most notably Predict a Holiday sets that have faux finish. I have 2 of them that have deteriorated cabinets, very similar damage to this. So I'd like to find an all-in-one solution that can handle all of them, be it ultra-thin veneer or paper, adhesive paper or vinyl or something like that. But we'll save that for another day.